Hello all, welcome to another endgame study of the Solving Harder Studies to Improve Chess Calculation series. This endgame study was created by the Austrian chess composer Peter Krug. It's white to play and to win. As always, I suggest you watch the guide if you haven't. If you already are prepared, then the main countdown of 10 minutes will start, and then I catch you up to begin the guided solution. And let's go for the solution. Let's start with the first right one, which is bishop d6 check. This is a forced line. The king needs to go to e8, and we are on the move again. So let's see the initial position. There are a lot of threats going on over here. Our rook also is threatening to take one of the black pieces. So the position starts forcing us to calculate some possibilities. Of course, there is even a bishop takes rook, but of course after that the rook takes our rook. So looks like complicated, but it's very simple to see that if we take this one, we are going to fall into a fork. Now our king is forced to move, then black grabs our rook, and in the end, well, we can force it. The enemy will be escaping, and as you can see, equal material means a draw. Of course, going to the other side, it's similar. Instead of going taking the rook directly, black can go and check our king and with a discover check on the other rook. So the king moves and black takes the other rook, which makes it easier for black to draw. So this also doesn't work. What else? What else? Well, we can grab the knight, and if we grab the knight, well, this is also simple. The rook takes with check. The rook again takes our rook. Now the rook moves. There is a check over here. Now a threat of checking mate. Notice that here is a checkmate. But black has this very interesting research that we are going also to see far ahead, which is to check the king, and then the king moves, and from here there is no progression anywhere. So it's not possible for white to win when with any of these captures over here. So the correct one is to go with the bishop d6 check. So the king needs to move, and it's us to play again. So another minute for you. Pause if you need more, and find the next continuation for white. And the correct continuation is to go with the rook f5. Well, at the beginning you may seem, okay, what's going on over here? But of course, this is just a short period of time, because very fast you can see that if the bishop accepts the rook, we can check the king. Only way is to block again, and so we get a checkmate very easily. So black really can't take the rook, and now our rook is threatening checkmate in one. But of course, the other possibility over here that we also need to calculate is why not going directly with the rook taking on f8 and going for the checkmate. Well, because we have the knight check, the king needs to move, the knight takes the rook, we take back the knight, so we are now threatening to more or less challenging as a checkmate. Notice over here. And black has this interesting research. Rook goes to h8, sacrificing, because when white accepts, it's a stalemate draw. The king can't move. There are no moves from black, so we get a draw in a funny way. So for white, the correct move is to go with this brilliant one. And now it's black to play. Of course, black needs to do something very active to avoid being checkmated. So the only one is to go with the knight d7, check. And it's white to play again. So another minute. Pause if you need more. What is the correct continuation for white from here? And over here we are under check. So the first idea is to move the king, but this doesn't work. Black has two resources. One is very simple, it's to go with the knight b8. So now when the rook checks, it's not checkmate because the knight can block and even it's a check. And because this rook is not very well positioned, the best for white is to go for a simple draw with this line where both rooks are under attack. So probably what it's going to happen, it's a draw very fast. But besides this one, black even has this harder one, which forces us, of course, to find another continuation where we lose both rooks and stay with one less piece. But then, of course, we just connect the bishop with the pawn. And of course, we just need to grab the other pawn to get this a draw, keeping the piece. Or if the knight sacrifice, then we grab it. And it's a draw anyway, but we would suffer a bit more. So over here, we need to find the rook sacrificing for the knight. It's black to play. So the better option for black is to accept the other rook. And now back to you. It's another minute. Find the continuation for white from here. And yes, you may have some suspicions about me stopping over here and giving the position for you because you wonder, okay, if it gives the position for us, probably it's not this one the correct move. I forget to mention this is a blunder. Why? Because now the rook just comes back, let's say to f1. We have saw this before immediately on the beginning. Now the rook is threatening to take our bishop and deliver the black bishop and deliver checkmate. But of course, we already saw this, and the rook is going to become very active, and so we can't escape a draw from here. It's impossible to force the situation. So the correct move over here is to go directly with the rook b8. So now we are really threatening checkmate, even against over rooks, two other rooks, two black rooks over the board over here. It's black to play, of course, and of course black can go and have two interesting ways. One is rook c5, a very interesting one, and the other one is rook b5. So black is trying to sacrifice everything and get a stalemate. But over here we just accept the rook with our pawn, and of course now we are going to be smart. Notice what black is going to do. Black is going to offer the rook. Of course, now we just can block with our bishop, but it's black to play. And how can we progress from here? Well, black just moves the king, and so find the solution for this, and then I'll catch you back to go until the end of this one. And over here, the maneuver is very interesting. We just move the rook to the side. So now black can't move the rook away, of course, because otherwise it's going to be some check with probably a checkmate. Notice that the rook can check from h6. So the rook also moves to the side. And now, yes, it's different because we can check the king moves, and now go to e3. This is the fastest one. The only way for black to delay this anymore is to offer the rook. So going with rook g4, and then we get checkmate. So this was the very interesting maneuver to use the rook to just win another one tempo and then position for the checkmate. We are going to see this in the main line. Let's go directly for the main line. The main line is the rook sacrifice. Of course, over here we can't accept it with the king. I think this is not hard to find, because this just allows the enemy king to move away, and from here we get kind of a draw. It's impossible for us to win this one. It's going to be game over. Notice that the pawn is going to promote in the different light square from the dark square we have, so it's going to be a draw. This is a theoretical draw. Impossible for white to force the king away from the corner and avoid a stalemate draw. So here we take with the bishop. So the idea is very similar. So now the rook is going to check it. So the bishop blocks this, and after blocking, the rook is going to offer again the sacrifice. We can't accept the rook because otherwise it's going to be a stalemate. So we need to block it with the bishop, and we already saw this before. The king moves, we move the rook. The black pieces are forced to move again and use the rook, but now we can go and remove the bishop with check, and from here it's impossible to avoid the checkmate. Of course, the rook can also sacrifice. We just accept it because now the bishop isn't blocked, so the bishop can move away, and it's going to be a win for white. So very interesting one from the beginning, almost a forced line until the end. Very, very, very entertaining, and I hope you also have enjoyed. And as always, I catch you up with future videos. Bye bye, and keep checking.